Hey, my friends, welcome to episode number 181, but also number 3 out of the series of 3 of GLP-1s. So this is a focused 3-part series where we talk about what it feels like, not only physically, but emotionally to decide to use the medication, what we want to kind of how we want to prepare ourselves, but also how we want to feel emotionally and mentally being on the medication as well. So loving our choice versus taking the action to be on it and doing it from shame. And then last week, part 2, we talked about like the actual practical things about the medication, what you should be doing on the medication, what you shouldn't be doing. So you know those tangible things. And today is episode number 3. So we're going to talk about the longevity of being on this medication and then also how long and how to taper if you want to taper, what happens towards the end part of this journey. And again, how to do this like the responsible way so that you can keep your results forever versus just the time you were on the medication. And you know what? I've been getting so many great insights and questions, and then also seeing like where I'm not filling in the gap on some things that need to be said. My stance on using a GLP-1 is always going to be like, I'm never going to be somebody that's all the way over here or all the way over there. That's how I take my stance in almost everything, is that the answer lies in the gray. So if you want to hate me because I'm talking about GLP-1, that is fine. But I also have so much room and space for not using a GLP-1. And then also, if you're loving me right now because I'm talking about it on the podcast, that's great. And also, you have to do the things that I've always been teaching you, right? So this isn't me saying like, I'm an influencer on GLP-1 now and I can make money on it. And here's my code. I'm not making any money on you purchasing a GLP-1. So to be totally clear on that part of it. Also remember, and I think I've said this several times, I cannot prescribe this medication. I am a nurse, but also I operate under the coaching industry. So without having a medical provider overseeing me, I can't use my nursing license. I use my nursing education. I use my coaching education to help move my clients from where they are to where they want to be. I cannot prescribe GLP. I'm not an influencer. I don't have a code for you. However, I do have preferred providers that I do encourage you to see versus other ones, which brings me to the point. Don't get your medication from somebody who has never seen you, who has never had a conversation with you. Don't get it from the black market, the gray market. If it seems fishy, it is. Like, don't do it that way. There are really good, supportive, safe ways to do this. If it feels sketchy, it is sketchy. Okay. And also, you cannot get GLP over the counter. I've had a lot of questions of what about this supplement or that's no, GLP is not a supplement. GLP is a medication that you inject. There are some oral forms. However, that is a lot more uncommon. Injection is typically what you're going to be seeing for somebody who's listening to this podcast. If you see something over the counter that says GLP on it, this is just really good marketing or bad marketing, however you want to look at it. They're just trying to get your attention by putting GLP on the label that grabs your attention, right? Because it's really hot right now. That's the only reason. Can you support your GLP through supplements, through lifestyle? You absolutely can. That's everything that I have been teaching, but this will not be the fast result of what a true GLP is. Okay, so remember, be discerning. Are you being marketed to? Are you being sold the thing that you're getting? You can use your resources to figure that out. And if it feels like you have an instinct that this probably isn't as good as the bottle says, or this can't be that good, you're probably right, right? Okay. All right. So let's get to the first part. Like, how long should you be on a GLP? I can almost guarantee that you've asked yourself, how long is this going to be? How long am I willing to be on this? And sometimes your doctor doesn't even have this conversation with you. They're just like, it's up to you. When you're ready to stop, you stop. But beneath this question on how long should I be on this is just so much more stuff to ask yourself and to contemplate. And am I going to be on this forever? Do you want to be on this forever? Is it okay if you are? What happens when you stop? Will all the weight come back? Did I just put a Band-Aid on something? Because we don't want to just look at a date on a calendar and say, I commit myself to 1 year of being on this and then I'm going to stop. What we really want to do is to feel safe in our decision, safe in choosing to stay on it long term, or safe knowing when your body's actually ready and when you are mentally and emotionally ready to start tapering. So that's what today is going to be all about. And also, as a reminder, if you haven't grabbed the free GLP support guide, it is in the show notes. And you can also go to Instagram and you can DM me the word GLP and I can send it to you there as well. Okay, so how long can you really be on a GLP-1? The answer is there is no universal timeline. Anyone who gives you that is making it up. Some women stay on a GLP long term, and for some women, that is the right decision. There are providers out there who do a lot of public education on GLP, and they will talk about their personal usage of it. And they can think of one right now. Dr. Jessica Brown does a great education around this, and she has been on it for years, and she just does the lowest effective dose for her. And I think on the last podcast I heard her talk about, it's either 25 milligrams or 2.5 milligrams. I can't remember which one she's on. So she's just like inevitably on that. She doesn't have a plan to go off of her medication. So truthfully, we don't have long-term studies on being on it for a really long time. So that's something that you're taking the gamble on just continuing it for the foreseeable future. There are more studies on people who have been on it long-term with type 2 diabetes because it's been approved for that for so much longer. But for somebody who's taking it for inflammatory issues, autoimmune issues, or to lose and shift weight or maintain weight, there just really isn't a whole lot of research and data on that. So you just have to know that you're taking a gamble by doing that. Also, remember, gambling isn't always bad when it comes to this. We're like, oh, a gamble is going to be terrible. Not necessarily. It could definitely play out for you. You just don't know. So you're going in, making the decision by trusting yourself, trusting your body, knowing that you can start to learn to listen to your body, listen to your intuition on deciding when do I want to stop and if I want to stop. But asking yourself, how long do I stay on this is actually less of a useful question. I prefer really good questions to get you the answer you're actually looking for. So one good question would be, well, what was driving weight gain in the first place? What has improved since I started? What still needs my attention, and what do I need to refine on in my day-to-day life? And do I really have those responsible habits that can support my body without that medication? So when you ask really good questions instead, it stops being about a yes or no or a success or failure. It starts to be about finding out why you're on this in the first place and what you're actually looking to feel and how you know you're at a state of being ready to either taper or well, actually, I'm always going to recommend tapering and not just stopping it. And we'll talk about that more as we go into the episode. I also want to introduce or talk about another concept, which I talked about, I don't know, probably like 5, 6, 7 episodes ago about finding your natural weight. Because I am always going to be somebody who is going to encourage you to find your natural weight versus finding your GLP weight. I can just say also, you can look at somebody and know that they have achieved their natural weight versus they have achieved a GLP weight. If you see somebody online that had been at a very quote unquote healthy weight for a good amount of time of their lives, or, it just seemed like they were comfortable, like at a natural weight, one that would be good for them. And then all of a sudden, they're looking different. They're looking like, wow, she really changed quite a bit. I can think of one person on the top of my head, and she's a weight loss coach. So she, was at probably a very natural weight for a long time after she lost a significant amount of weight at one point in her life. And now I can see there's a lot of evidence here that her body's probably at a not so much of a natural weight anymore. We can tell that by just how the body looks to the natural eye. When you start to feel like, oh, that caught my attention, that's the natural instinct of the body to say, oh, I'm not sure that this is actually what is right. I'm not sure that this is what is healthy. And so when you look at somebody and you're like, oh, I thought you looked good before, and now you've lost probably like 10 or 20 more pounds, and this is starting to be questionable, you're pushing past the natural weights point at this point. So your natural weight is the weight that your body prefers to be at. It's the one that is fairly simple and easy for you to be at. That means that you eat all of your nutritious meals during the day, you have snacks when you're hungry, and you're eating a well-balanced diet, and you're able to hear your hunger and fullness cues, and that it's simple and easy to be at. So that's the easiest way to explain it. And you can do this without gaining or shifting your weight significantly within a short or long period of time. You can also sleep well at night. You can do your workouts. You can recover from your workouts. Your hormones are well balanced, so your cycle health is great. Your digestion is good. Your nervous system is as regulated as it can be. We're not walking through life being regulated all the time. That's not the goal, but we have capacity to be dysregulated and regulated. So we can know when we're stressed, we can shift ourselves out. That's the goal. So when all those things are true, your body has really found a natural weight. Now, here's the tricky part. While you're on the medication, it's really hard to know what that weight is because the feedback from your body, the hunger, the fullness, your cravings, all of that is skewed while the medication is on board. And you can't fully trust those signs to tell you where your home base is yet. And I will have to say the mindset piece that is so important here because I see this constantly is if you have spent most of your life as a chronic dieter, always on a plan, always working towards a goal weight, always on to the next thing, then your brain is going to be stuck in losing mode. And when there's no program, no goal, no number to chase, you feel very lost and you don't know what to do with yourself. So you just keep going. So if that's you, this work has to happen while you're losing weight on this medication and through via coaching. Because otherwise you will not know when to stop. You won't recognize your natural weight when you get there because your mind is always saying, oh, just a little bit more, because it thinks that a little bit more is going to get you what you want to feel in your body. And that is never true. Weight loss never actually gives you the feeling that you want in your body. Let me say that again. Weight loss never actually gives you that feeling that you want in your body. Because what you want is confidence and trust and freedom. That doesn't actually come with weight loss. Did I just blow your mind? Or did you hear me say that before? That actually comes as you become the person who is losing weight and keeping it off and feeling really good in the body. It is an embodied version of you versus a performance version of you. And that happens on the road and that happens within the journey. But we have to start to develop that skill to be able to do that while you're losing weight. Otherwise, you're going to be on this roller coaster for forever, for the rest of your life. And I don't know about you, but that just feels like a waste of time. There's a lot of great things that you can do with your life and with your time and with your energy. And just losing weight with that is such a waste of your capacity and your capabilities as a human being on this earth. God didn't put you on the earth to lose weight. God put you on earth to do some amazing things, to live out your purpose. And that is not losing weight. That's not micromanaging. That's not always going after a weight loss goal, right? So it's becoming that person that we want to be inside of our body so that we can lose weight and then we can just move on with our lives. So another part that we want to talk about is what do you do when the weight loss stops? So what do you do when you actually reach a plateau? We've talked a little bit about this in the other episode, but I do think that it deserves a little bit more time in this episode as well. Because plateaus are common. Plateaus happen to almost everyone on the medication. And if they don't, you're probably doing things really well. The most common way that women will go past the plateau is like, I'll just increase my dose, path of least resistance, right? That seems easy and simple. Now, can your body adjust to a higher dose? Yes, that can absolutely be true. But I don't think that that's the first course of action. So before you jump in, there's so much room for improvement in your habits, the responsible behaviors of a GLP-1 user, because the goal is to leverage the effectiveness of this medication at the lowest effective dose. And when you keep increasing the dose without ever looking at what you're eating, how much you're moving, what your stress is like, how stressed your body is on this medication, because let's be honest, you're probably under consuming, that creates a stressed body, you miss that whole picture. And even on a GLP-1, your body still wants to be safe. Your body is always fighting for homeostasis, medication or not. And when your body feels as safe as possibly can while you're on this, your need to keep going up and your dosage actually goes down. Now, some women do everything right with their habits and still slowly increase over time. That's not necessarily a problem. Your problem is jumping up really quickly, losing weight much faster than your body is comfortable with, plateauing faster, jumping up again, and riding that escalator all the way to the top dose. What that gets you is side effects from the medication itself, side effects from rapid weight loss, hair loss, muscle loss, fatigue, skin changes, and gut problems. So, when the scale stops, before you call your doctor and ask for an increase, I want you to consider that a plateau doesn't automatically mean increase your dose, eat less, work out more. Sometimes a plateau actually means that you need more food, more purposeful food, more minerals, more micronutrients. Where are the gaps on your intake that we can fill in to get those cells to communicate to each other? We have what we need here. It's not always just about those calories and those macros. It's also about the micros because there's so much communication happening with those micronutrients. Sometimes a plateau means you're actually losing muscle instead of body fat. Sometimes your body needs a maintenance phase or a break from weight loss. Sometimes your stress is just too high. Sometimes your sleep is poor. Sometimes you are unintentionally undernourishing yourself. You think you're doing all the things right, but if we actually look at what you're not eating what your body actually needs to survive on the lowest energy intake, right? You're eating like a toddler versus eating like a grown woman. Unintentionally undernourished is something I see day in and day out of my practice, whether you're on a GLP or not. Because what this really looks like, because also, let's just be honest, midlife women right now are doing a lot. And we've been doing a lot for a while and we have figured it out. We're very efficient, but we're not efficient at eating while we're being busy. And we've prioritized the busyness versus prioritizing fueling our bodies first. Because we wake up, we're already on the go. We're also not hungry, but we know we should eat. So maybe we put some protein in our coffee. And then we go, 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 go. We're at work. We're shoveling kids around, like whatever it looks like. And maybe we quick grab a protein bar for our lunch because we just don't have time between this and that and a meeting and whatever it is. By mid-afternoon, we're starving. We're just going to grab this and that, whatever we can put our hands on. Maybe you have a slab of beef jerky in your drawer or your car. Maybe you have a candy bowl at work. Maybe you grab your kids' fruit snacks. And then you graze all the way until dinner, but you're still hungry at dinner. So you keep eating at dinner. And then you graze all the way through the evening, and then you crash at bedtime and you do the same thing all over again. And what's happening is that day is that you might be meeting some of your caloric needs, but you're nowhere meeting your micronutrient needs because the protein bar, the protein shake, the one maybe balanced meal you have in the evenings, and then the snacking, those don't have micronutrients. That's not going to cover the basis. And those things are the micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals, those are going to come from whole unprocessed food. And when we feel like we're on the go all the time and we don't have time, we're not actually taking time to eat those whole foods. And for those of us who have been trying to lose weight for most of our lives, we know about tracking macros and calories. And a lot of times we just think that that's the job. Just do that, just meet the tracker goals and we're good. But especially on a GLP-1, when you're losing a steady amount of weight, the micros matter just as much. So when you're tracking your food, and I recommend using Chronometer for this reason, don't just look at your macros, look at the nutrient density. Look at where you're missing the mark on minerals and vitamins, because when you're too busy to pay attention to this, that's when the side effects start catching up with you and you stop getting the results you want, even if the scale is technically moving. So here's the part that sounds backwards, especially when you're on a GLP-1 and you know you're significantly eating less. And that at first is that driving factor of the scale moving really quickly, is that you should probably eat more. And so why do we want to eat more to restart the weight loss when we've reached a plateau? Is because your body is always looking for safety. When you are under consuming, whether that's calories, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, your body doesn't feel safe. And when your body doesn't feel safe, it will not let go of body fat. This is a plateau because body fat is your body's insurance policy. It's how it keeps it safe. And when you start eating more, that's one of the signals of safety. So think about it in the way that your ancestors' bodies did, because we're not far off from our ancestors' bodies from the last hundreds of years to 2026. Their bodies felt consistently nourished because consistent food meant that there was no famine, no war, no cutting off access to food. And our bodies never got the 2026 update saying, hey, we have an abundance of food right now. You can relax, because we're still running on our ancestors' DNA, which means we still have to do the things that their bodies needed to feel safe. And that's consistent, adequate nourishment. And for everyone, weight loss is not an emergency. Let's say that again. Weight loss is not an emergency. Your weight loss can be slow. And actually, I want it to be slow. The only reason that you want it to be fast is because somewhere in your mind, you believe that losing weight gets you to the destination of finally feeling happy and content and where you love yourself. But that is where you are wrong. That does not happen at the end of the weight loss journey. That happens during the process, or it doesn't happen at all. Especially if you're somebody who's been spending her whole life trying to love her body by shrinking it. Let it take time. Let it be patient, because you are developing the skills and the embodiment of being able to love your body at the end of the journey versus starting all over again. You'll be able to keep your results versus going through the yo-yo back and forth of gaining and losing and gaining and losing, which many of you have done for most of your lives. We have so much more potential than to keep doing this, than to keep being on this roller coaster of on and off and on and off. Get on the train, stay on the train, finish and complete it, and become that person that you really want to be inside of your body versus performing this to only stop and go back again. So let's go into tapering now. So how do you know? Like, what are some signs that you know you're ready to start tapering? Because the first goal isn't, can I stop? The goal is, have I built a body and a lifestyle that can support me when I start to taper? The reason why I suggest tapering, so slowly decreasing your dose versus just stopping, is because when you slowly decrease it, you slowly let that food noise in versus that food noise coming in like a tidal wave. And the hunger coming in like a tidal wave. When we taper it, it becomes like a river. And to be completely honest, this is going to happen. This is not something that you're going to avoid. GLPs cut the food noise. That's one of the ways that you are able to cut your calories and undernourish, is because you don't actually hear those things. So when we stop using the medication, that is going to come back. There's no fluffy rainbow at the end of this that you have lost the food noise forever. So we want to let this information come in like a river versus like a tidal wave, because that gives you so much more control over the food noise and the hunger that you will begin to feel now. So here are some questions that you can honestly ask yourself when you are considering tapering. Am I consistently eating enough protein? And if we're going to define enough protein for this episode, we'll just say 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. So for me, my ideal body weight is somewhere between 135 and 140. I typically aim for 140 grams of protein a day. Am I strength training with progressive overload, not just moving around? Progressive overload means lifting weights, lifting heavy weights, consistently getting stronger, tracking your workouts, knowing that you're developing muscle. You can also make sure to do in-body scans to look at your muscle and your fat mass. You can also get like a scale on Amazon that measures these things as well. I have a Renfo scale, which are the numbers totally accurate? No, they're absolutely not. This was like a $40 scale. However, I do pay attention to my trends. My trends will tell me if my muscle is going up or down, even if I don't necessarily believe the true numerical data that they give me. But I do believe the trends because I've witnessed the trends, right? I can see in my body when my fat composition has gone up or down. And my muscle, I will usually have an instinct if I'm losing muscle or if I'm gaining muscle. So use that to gauge your progress as well. Can you recognize hunger and fullness cues, at least to some ability while you're on the medication? Can you recognize and feel and respond to hunger versus pushing it off? And then also your fullness while on a GLP. Can you recognize and respond and respect the fullness and stop eating when you're starting to feel full while you're on a GLP? And then as you taper that GLP down, you will still really begin to get very close to these hunger and fullness cues. So you understand what your body's telling you whenever it's asking for food and when it's not asking for food. Do you have routines that support you? Your meals, like meal prepping, stress, sleep management. If you've been getting by on a GLP by not meal prepping, and that was your game plan to just not eat, I don't think you're ready to taper because you don't have a plan to support yourself when your body's extremely hungry. You haven't developed the skills of knowing I need to have food prepared for myself ahead of time. So you're going to be at work, you're going to be starving, you're going to order Jimmy John's, you're going to go into the break room and grab the candy. It's going to be somebody's birthday, you're going to overindulge. Those things are going to happen if you don't have the things set in stone in place on how you protect yourself during the day to make sure that you have access to consistent, balanced nourishment. And then have I addressed the habits that existed before the medication? The stress eating, the boredom eating, the nighttime grazing, right? Have I worked through some of this? Because this is going to come back and we're going to be working at it at a different level when it comes back. But we have to at least have the basics understood while you're on it of noticing, because you'll still notice that you want to stress eat on the medication. You'll still notice that you might be bored and you kind of grab things here and there. But you can usually, you kind of get away with it on a GLP, but you're not going to get away with it when you taper or come off medication. So you want to have these things in place before you start to taper. So if you're answering no to most of those, you're just simply not ready yet. And that's okay. That's information and not judgment. It tells you exactly what you need to work on and to fix so that you can get to the point where you feel like you're ready to taper. So what happens when you do taper? Here's what to expect. As the medication comes down, the first things that return are going to be your food noise, your hunger, and your appetite. And for some women, this will come back really fast and it comes back really loud. That's why, again, we want to taper. We want to make this a river experience and not a tidal wave. And sometimes it can just feel like, oh my God, it's back. I have no control. That's why I recommend tapering versus the stopping, because you'll get that tidal wave. But when you taper, you slowly turn on that language of your body and you're slowly be able to interpret what your body actually needs. You give yourself time to hear the cues that might suddenly feel very loud, but we can do this with a conscious, calm approach and learn how to process that loudness and ask that loudness what it's actually asking for. Because what most people don't understand about food noise is that, yes, some of this is chemical, like a hormonal reaction to needing food, your leptin and your ghrelin hormones. And we can definitely say food noise is partially that, but food noise is not always coming from your body asking for food. We just say that's what it is because our instinct is to eat. But food noise is also stress, it's fatigue, it's not recovering from your workouts, it's overwhelm, it's a lack of joy, it's boredom. Insert the thing that seems to come up for you. For me, in the evenings, it would be boredom. I could also have FOMO, especially like on the weekends. I like to eat things that are outside of my norm of during the week. So I might have some like FOMO. It's the weekend. I want to do these things. And then I just have more food noise than maybe on a Tuesday afternoon, right? And so insert what it is for you as to why food noise comes and what it's actually asking for. Because sometimes your body's asking for rest and it sounds like a craving. Sometimes your body's asking for stress relief and it sounds like hunger. Learning to tell the difference between food noise and the actual physiological needs of your body is one of the most important skills you can build. And I want you to build it while you're tapering and on the medication and not after you already started, because it's going to feel like you're running up like a wall versus a nice slow hill. Right? It's still going to be work up the hill versus trying to scale a wall. Very different experience and results. And another piece of like really like getting honest here is that food noise after coming off is going to be louder than what it was before. So if you had a lot of food noise before and the food noise has diminished and then you go off of the medication or you start to taper, the food noise is probably going to be louder now than it was before because your body just came out of a deep calorie deficit and it wants homeostasis back. Your body is always fighting for safety. Your body's always fighting for balance. But if you've built consistent strength training, consistent protein, blood sugar stability through how you structure your meals, the noise actually gets minimized and very tolerable. You'll be able to move through the food noise with control versus out of control. Because more muscle on your body means fewer sugar cravings because you're actually using the carbohydrates of your meal. It means naturally stable blood sugar. It means less frantic food seeking noise because your body's metabolically healthier. So keeping the weight off actually becomes so much easier. This is the difference of the women who taper well and women who don't. So let's also talk about the thing that's always sitting in the back of someone's mind is what happens if I regain weight? Or why do some women regain weight? Do I need to worry about this? Because the stories of women who lose 40, 50, 60 pounds and gain it all back, because we see that sometimes, we're afraid that that's going to be us. Weight gain is usually not because there's a discipline problem. It's not always because you did something wrong. It's not because you weren't committed. The reasons for regain are going to be very basic and straightforward things as to why the weight gain happened or the regain happened. The first one, a lack of muscle. I'm putting this first because it's one that is very doable and very within your power. If you lost weight without strength training, a chunk of what you lose is muscle, and muscle is your metabolic engine. So if you think I just took away a ton of body fat from my body, I also took away a ton of muscle. I came out of a deep calorie deficit, and now I have opened myself up to be able to hear my body by tapering the medication or stopping it. Your body's going to be very loud. It's going to ask for a lot of food. It's going to ask for it very fast. And it doesn't have protective muscle there to be able to protect your metabolism either. Strength training is imperative. I'm not going to stop with that. Has to be the number one thing. And we cannot be picking up 5-pound dumbbells forever and calling it strength training. Yes, if you need to start at 5-pound dumbbells, I want you to do that. But we have to focus on lifting heavier because I know that you lift 5 pounds in your sleep. I know that you lift 40 pounds of groceries into the car. I know you lift your 50-pound children. So stop poo-pooing what you're lifting. Underlying digestion issues or hormonal balances that were never addressed before the GLP or while you were on it. You can still address these things while you're on a GLP, but we do want to make sure that these things are taken care of. Otherwise, they're going to come back with a vengeance and they're going to contribute to more weight gain. Also, losing weight too quickly. Anything more than 1 pound to 2 pounds a week sends the female midlife body into a state of feeling like this is a crisis. We want to do it very slowly so we can show the body we are safe. We have enough here. Things are good. Remember, body fat, it's sense of safety. We're taking that away. And so we're putting our body into a state of being like, oh, figure out how to create safety. I just took away all the ways you feel safe. I took away food. I took away body fat. I took away muscle. Your body's like, what? We have nothing here. What do we do? And so it feels like a crisis. But when we do it slowly, then we just have so much more leverage to be able to keep our results. A lack of nervous system regulation and stress management is going to also be imperative because this is going to allow us to be able to follow through on the habits. If our nervous system is very dysregulated and we're chaotic inside of this body, and then we bring in food noise, can you see how it would be difficult to control our actions in that state? And that's why nervous system regulation is always in all of my coaching. And then poor quality sleep. If we're not fixing sleep, we're not able to lose and keep our weight off. And remember what I said earlier about the woman who escalated her dose fast and lost weight fast? Her body has been in a desperate, deprived state for months or years. And when she stops the medication and that communication channel with her body opens back up, it's going to be screaming. The food noise is double, triple, quadruple what it was before the medication. And that's why the regain happens. And that's why it often comes back with extra because your body's protecting you from what it experienced as a famine. It's what our ancestors would have interpreted as a famine. And most women are going to have an entry strategy on a GLP, but nobody's giving you an exit strategy. It's usually like whenever you're ready, and then you just stop, and then you're just told to kind of manage your thoughts and feelings and the physical experience on your own when you haven't actually developed the skills to be able to do that. So let's bring this around and reframe this whole conversation. The goal is not staying on the medication forever. The goal is not getting off as fast as possible. The goal is creating a body that is nourished, strong, metabolically healthy, and resilient. The goal is really being a leader in your body and trusting yourself. When those foundations exist, the question of staying on or tapering off becomes so much less emotional and reactive. It becomes a strategy instead of an identity crisis. Because for some women, the tapering happens almost naturally once the foundation is really there. And some women choose to stay on a low dose long term with no end point in mind. And they love their decision. And here's an option I don't hear talked about enough is some women benefit from taking intentional breaks from the medication. Breaks can actually increase your sensitivity to it. So when you come back and you respond really well at a smaller dose versus climbing higher and higher and higher. And it also gives you breaks to be able to open that communication between you and your body so you can hear it again. This is one of the most effective ways, I think, to stay on that lowest effective dose for a long period of time. Whatever way you choose, I want you to love your decision and love your results because that's the whole point. So, what do you do from here? First, if you're on a GLP or considering one, make sure to download my free GLP support guide. It will help you to know what to start doing right now, even if you're on the medication, or what to improve on. The link is in the show notes. You can also DM me on Instagram, the word GLP, and I will send it to you. And second of all, I want to tell you about something that I have very limited space for, but this might be the right fit for you. My one-on-one practice is just on the verge of being full. And even when this episode comes out, it might actually be full, but I still encourage you to schedule a consultation because I do want to bring in a few more GLP clients into my nurse-led GLP program before I launch a brand new group program this fall. So inside this program, we work around monitoring and creating consistent nutrient intake so your body responds well. We're leveraging your lowest effective dose, building muscle because that's your metabolic foundation, balancing your hormones naturally through food, looking at any digestion or hormonal imbalances that might be keeping you from utilizing this medication as effectively as you possibly can. And most importantly, you're going to learn to understand your body while you're on a GLP so that you have the autonomy and the authority over your own body that you deserve to have and that you want to have. Knowing when and how the medication is working for you and how you want to use it, loving your results, loving your decision, and developing the responsible behaviors of a woman who gets to keep both. So if that's you, make sure to schedule your free consultation. In the show notes, you can also DM me the word consult in Instagram, and I will send you the link to schedule. All right, my friends, that wraps up our GLP series. Make sure to take care of that body for you, and I will see you next week.